All right, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Scone, presented by Brock, Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. HUDCO Roofing, HUDCOroofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Did this once before. Going to give you all a chance to check it out again. A little bit more here. Going to do my live hit here on Crain and Company. Talk LSU-Auburn. Just let y'all let this serve as Morning Scone. Let y'all get to watch.
Morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning.
We aren't hearing you.
Sorry. There it is.
No worries. Could you give us a 5 count real quick, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll open program.
About you actually racing. Yeah, I don't know if you turned left quicker. NASCAR driver Chris Wallace. And I just don't understand, I watched a video the other day, just two NASCAR, I don't know if it was NASCAR, but it was something around, they were getting in a fight. And this dude's just trying to piece this guy through the window. There's netting. Oh, yeah, I saw that. He has a helmet on. How about you let the dude get out of the car? Yeah, stop jumping people in the car. Like, let him get out of the car. And then, look, I'm all for fighting. Y'all know me. I condone it. Sometimes violence is necessary. It really is. There's levels in life where violence is necessary. But let the man get out of the car, you bum. Yeah. It's kind of like Mike Evans hitting somebody when he's not looking. It's about the same. There's about the same thing. You don't mess with Tom Brady.
I do want to say this, though. Our last rapid fire before we bring Matt in here, get to break real quick. Steve Nash saying he doesn't care if Ben Simmons ever shoots a jump shot. To me, is code for, dude, please don't shoot.
Yeah.
He's unique. He's got a unique skill set, which he does. All right. But the fact that you're a guard, he's like, don't shoot. He's like, I don't care if he ever shoots. Yeah. That'd to me to be like, oh, yeah, well, my guy makes cakes for a living, but I don't care if he ever bakes.
Yeah, 2 things from that is, one, I stopped listening to Steve Nash after I saw him do those TikToks.
Yeah, it was bad.
And 2, when any girl ever asks me, whenever tells me she doesn't like guys who play games in a relationship, I just send her a picture of Ben Simmons. Trust me, I don't play games.
Look, I like that. He said his mental headspace is in a good spot. We'll see. Speaking of split, we'll see how it is tomorrow. But if you want to watch the rest of this, remember you can listen here if you want to keep it here. Head over to the Daily Wire Plus. Become a member. Listen on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe. Leave a 5-star review and share it with all your friends. We got Matt Moscona coming up to talk some LSU, Auburn. We're going to talk some Yankees. Yes, they clinched the division. Cool story. We'll see how it goes. We'll be right back with Matt Moscona. Don't go anywhere. Subscribe.
Good morning, everybody, for just joining behind the scenes, Crain and Company.
Well, you decided to return. Smartest thing you've done today, and it's not even 9 o'clock yet. Matt Moscona, after further review, wearer of many hats, doer of many things, bourbon connoisseur, say he can cook a pretty good steak too, but I think that's a lie. Matt Moscona, what's up, man? How's it going?
Wonderful. I love LSU Auburn week. I'm fired up.
Yeah, I bet you do this year. Look, you know us. We're not going to beat around the bush. Auburn's not exactly loaded with talent this year. It seems like Brian Harsin is kind of on his way out. But when you look at this game, to me, Robbie Ashford is like diet Jaden Daniels. Like he's like a worse version of Jaden Daniels. Very athletic. They can both run. He just struggles to throw the ball effectively past 10 yards. Jaden's a better thrower. But when you look at this game, to me, when you have quarterbacks that aren't the greatest throwers, that are athletic and can run and can extend the play and are a problem in the quarterback run game, it's going to come down to the run game. That's what it's going to come down to, in my opinion. Both offensive lines are a little bit beat up. Auburn center is out for the game, going to be out, I think, 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere around there. I know LSU's down a guard. When you look at this game, Maddie, what is the biggest key in your eyes?
So I kind of disagree on the run game piece. For Auburn, I think that
All
is
right,
it.
Matt Moscona, good to have you on. No, go ahead.
I think for LSU, the advantage they'll have over almost anyone they play are their athletes on the outside. So it's going to be Jaden's ability to get the ball to Kayshon Boutte and Malik Neighbors and Jack Besh, Brian Thomas. I mean, LSU kind of has an embarrassment of riches at receiver right now, to where their biggest problem is finding ways to get all these guys involved. And maybe part of that is, I just know that LSU's offensive line isn't great. That they don't have a Fournette, a Geis, a Jeremy Hill this year, that stud ace running back. So, I mean, Jaden Daniels is going to be LSU's leading rusher this year out of necessity. And he's really dynamic when he runs the football, guys. We talked about this in fall camp, where I talked, like, he is a dynamic runner, and he makes plays with his feet. And Saturday on the Plains, he'll be LSU's leading rusher because he's going to have to be. And I think it's really just going to come down to, can Jaden protect the football and get the ball to the playmakers on the outside?
Yeah, it's just when I look at it, LSU, as a team, you never want to be in predictable downs, especially on third down, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s. But we know Jaden is not an elite level thrower. He's a good enough thrower. Vertically down the field, I think he's still getting a feel on that a little bit. When you have a guy that can extend a play as long as him, the scramble drills as an effective play as any. But when you have a quarterback that is your main rusher, and I agree with you 100%, Matt, I think he's one of the top 3-4 rushing quarterbacks in the country. I'd put Jalen Daniels from Kansas on that list and a couple other guys. But if LSU cannot get in 2nd and 5 and 3rd and 3s, he loses his effectiveness so much. Because you go back to the Mississippi State game. Where did they kill Mississippi State? On what, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5? He was finding Malik Neighbors on intermediate routes, short routes. And it's funny watching Malik turn into the security blanket after he was a guy that dropped the punts against Florida State, and that ended up really costing you there at the end. I'm glad to see a young guy make up for that. But I do want to move on, because you had a point, Matt. You were talking about this hurricane and games being moved and things like this. If people haven't heard you, do you mind kind of rehashing that a little bit? Because I believe it's, 6 years almost to the day?
Yeah, I don't know that I want to relitigate the whole thing, but so 6 years ago, LSU and Florida's game was disrupted by Hurricane Matthew. And first and foremost, guys, obviously, Godspeed to everybody in Florida. You live
For sure.
You live in the Gulf Coast, as I have my whole life. Everybody's going to deal with storms, and it's awful, and what's happening there is awful. But I think there are coexisting truths here. There are 2 points that are not mutually exclusive. You can certainly have empathy toward the people that are going through and will be going through the recovery of Hurricane Ian, and also have the conversation about what you do when events are inevitably having to be moved or rescheduled as a result of storms. And there are precedents and protocols that need to be set. And 6 years ago, LSU and Florida got into a very ugly public spat over this whole thing. And what it came down to was LSU, the week of that game, early in the week, was trying to make any concession they could to get the game played. LSU offered to play it on Sunday. They offered to play it on Monday. They offered to play it in the morning. They offered to fly in, fly out the same day, because there's no hotels. Okay, well, fly in, fly out same day. They said, well, they don't want to take away first responders. So LSU offered, let's play it in an empty stadium. Let's go to a neutral site. LSU offered to host the game. And while none of those situations are obviously ideal, you do what you have to do. I mean, I'll remind you that in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit, the largest natural disaster our country's ever seen, LSU played a home game in Tempe, Arizona. When LSU played Tennessee in the Katrina year, they played them on a Monday night. Tennessee flew in and flew out the day of the game. It's not ideal, but it's sometimes what you have to do. In 2015, there was awful flooding in Columbia, South Carolina, and LSU ended up hosting South Carolina for a South Carolina home game in Tiger Stadium. These are just things that happen. And so earlier this week when Florida and if you remember what happened in that situation, Herb Vincent with the SEC is a very smart guy, ultimately found a loophole or a rule where he said, look, to play in the SEC championship game, you have to play 8 conference games. And so while LSU was content to just not play the game, Florida needed to play the game to be able to go to Atlanta. So ultimately, LSU was made to cancel a game that it had scheduled with South Alabama for later in the season, and they put Florida in that date in Tiger Stadium, which angered a lot of Florida people. But LSU's stance was, why should we cancel a home game, especially coming off of catastrophic flooding in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge earlier that year, because you weren't willing to budge earlier. So I guess, guys, all that just to say, earlier this week, Florida very proactively moved their game this week with Eastern Washington to Sunday, which is exactly which was the recommended path 6 years ago, it was athletic director Jeremy Foley, but he was unwilling to make any of those concessions. And they did this time. So hopefully and look, the other part of that, guys, is Greg Sankey was a newly minted SEC commissioner in 2016.
Yeah.
So I think you had a couple of veteran athletic directors who kind of were running roughshod over the substitute teacher.
Yeah.
And that is a very different situation now because Greg Sankey is very firmly in control of the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, he went from substitute teacher to superintendent pretty quick.
Yeah, he did. Matt, it's great to see you, buddy.
Yo, man.
Since we last spoke after the Florida State game, LSU is 3-0. Y'all just touched on the Auburn game. After that, you host an undefeated Tennessee team. Now, Josh Heupel looks to have that machine going strong. The defense against Florida, they bended a little bit, but they didn't break. Is Tennessee legit?
Offensively, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they got dudes, and Hendon Hooker might be the best quarterback in the SEC right now, with all respect to Bryce Young. I think the key to beating Tennessee this year, because they look defensively, they will give up yards and points. I mean, they couldn't really get stops against Florida either in that ball game. I think the key against Tennessee is going to be, if they have 12 possessions in a ball game, can you come up with 6 stops? And if they score 6 times, can you hold them to field goal attempts on 3 of them? And so if you hold them to 31 points, can you score 34? I think that's going to be the path to beat Tennessee. There will be a one-off day. When in 2019, that great LSU offense with Burrow and Chase and Jefferson and all those guys, I mean, they played a game in Tiger Stadium against Auburn that ended up in the 20s. And it was just a sluggish day where LSU had like 4 trips inside the red zone, maybe 2 trips inside the 5 where they came away with no points. I mean, it was just weird. So sometimes those games happen, but offensively, Cone, I mean, Tennessee scares the bejeepers out of everybody. I mean, they can move it up and down the field on anybody, and I suspect they will when they come into Baton Rouge next week.
Yeah, they look like a well-oiled machine. I want to ask you about the Saints really quick, okay? Is it Andy Dalton time in New Orleans, or would that only exacerbate the problems, Matt?
You're killing me, Cone. Yeah, listen, man. There's nobody that was a bigger supporter of the Saints giving Jameis this go than me. But the man has a literal broken back. Guys, I have chronic back issues. Whenever I slip a disc, I'm Loratab muscle relaxers on the couch for like a week.
Yeah,
this dude's out there trying to
Same here.
Guys, this dude's out there trying to play NFL football with a broken back. It's just so obvious he's not effective. So, I mean, you played 12 quarters of football, you've scored 51 total points, and 38 of them are in the fourth quarter when you're playing catch-up. I mean, it's just not sustainable. Hey, guys, this is why you went and signed Andy Dalton. This is the reason. Because for each of the last 3 years, your starter's gotten injured, and you've had to play the backup. It's why you signed Jameis Winston when you did. It's why you signed Teddy Bridgewater when you did. It's to have a guy who has starting experience that if you come up against it, can go play. And man, it's just, yes, Cone. It was time for Andy Dalton 2 games ago. Let the man with a broken back, let his broken back heal, and let the other guy play.
Well, spinal.
Well, it's funny that, not even really funny, it was just interesting. The announcers before the last game were like, here comes Jameis Winston. He's got a couple fractures in his back. Let's see how it affects him. It's like, what? They'd be like, hey, he just got shot by a bazooka before the game started. Let's see how it affects him. His legs are gone, but let's see how it affects
It's
him.
an interesting strategy.
Yeah, it's bold. See if it pays off.
Jameis, he's got that dog.
He's got that dog in it. X-ray came back. There's
All
a
the way
dog.
back from Hueytown. He's got that dog. He was
Yeah.
standing on tables letting people know about it. Well, Matt, last time we had you on here, there's a lot of questions about the Yankees.
Oh.
Here we
Oh,
go.
yes.
Go.
Yes.
Here
Good,
we
Matt.
go.
Yeah. Yes.
Now they've won 9
Oh,
out of 10.
yes, sir.
Home run champions.
Yes, sir. It feels so good to clinch the AL East. Judge just hits another tank. He ties a home run record. Matt, I want to say congratulations. Little love-hate relationship. Well, I mean, you're an LSU fan. I hate you for that, but you're a Yankees fan, so I love you for that. We're talking about LSU-Auburn. We're talking about the Yankees, but let's go around the college football landscape. What other matchups are you excited about this weekend, Matty?
Kentucky Ole Miss. I think
Me
is,
too. That's
is,
my favorite game this week.
Hashtag me too.
I think it's interesting because, they got the 11 a.m. treatment, but because it's just not a good logo game, right? I mean, nobody really cares about Kentucky Ole Miss, but
Top 15 game.
right, but it matters so much, man. Is Kentucky legit? I mean, Ole Miss has looked really good, but I think, guys, we all talked about this in Atlanta at media days. If they got past this Kentucky game, they were going to be 7-0 playing LSU. Just because now their schedule November is a bear for Ole Miss, but they could get there potentially 8-0. So I'm fascinated by that game. And then, I think we all know that Bama's going to steamroll Arkansas, but or as I call them, the Arkan frauds.
You think they cover 17, Matt?
Sure, why not? They're Alabama still.
Don't sound concrete in that.
I mean, I gave up on betting Alabama games years ago just because I don't want to watch them ever have success or root for anything good. But yes, of course, like you're not going to lose money betting Alabama to cover football games.
For sure.
It's just if you bet them to cover all year, you're going to make money. I call Arkansas the Arkan frauds, and it's not that I necessarily hate them. It's just this is 2 years in a row now where they've made their way all the way up into the top 10, and it's just completely not justified. Sam Pittman's done a good job, but come on. So the other one is Texas A&M Mississippi State, because Jimbo's got a lot of pressure, y'all. If you want to avoid 8-4, the Texas 8-4 label, you better go win in Starkville, and they're a slight dog in that game, and I understand why. Think about it, guys, like. Back-to-back ranked wins after the App State loss. And next week is the big game against Bama that everybody's talked about for a year now. And now you get this little sleepy 3 o'clock Saturday kick in Starkville with weird Mike Leach. And man, this has letdown written all over it for Texas A&M.
You've seen it. You saw Mississippi State last week. And most teams lose games they don't win. Mississippi State really lost that game. If you go back and watch, so many drops that were an unbelievably important situation. The drop punt brought LSU back in that game to me when it had gotten stale. Because Zach Arnett's one of the best DCs in the country that nobody talks about. Him and Ryan Walters from Illinois, Jim Leonard from Wisconsin. You go around the country, there's some really good young DCs. Zach's one of them. But Will Rogers, you got an experienced offensive line and weapons around. I like Mississippi State. I locked them in at -2.5 on the sharp earlier. I think they should be the favorite. I would be surprised if A&M won this game, even though I think going to Max Johnson was the right move. Obviously, you've seen as much as we talked about that. But when I look at A&M, you better be glad you beat Arkansas. Because if you didn't beat Arkansas, you're staring 0-3 down the pipe after losing to App State, then beating a Miami team that got absolutely boat raced by Middle Tennessee. But Blaine, let's get to the Booster Club real quick if we got some questions for Matt.
Yeah, let's go to. I got a question here from George. It says, Matt, where do you think LSU would be ranked if they had bested the Florida State Seminoles?
They probably. I'm trying to remember if they were receiving votes before the season started. But yeah, because I don't know if beating Florida State would have gotten them in. I don't think it would have. But at this point, 4-0, had they beaten Florida State, they would be somewhere, I think, in the low 20, or I guess the 20-ish range, somewhere in that range, because they still don't have a quality win, and that's one thing to talk about here, man. Like LSU's looked good the last 3 weeks, but let's not try to overvalue wins over Southern Mississippi State and New Mexico. LSU's an improving football team, but I mean, this will be very telling. Can you go on the road and beat a team like Auburn?
Yeah, and again, this isn't a super talented Auburn team. We've seen it, but Jordan Hare, crazy things happen. Look, last week, somebody pulled the wand out there in the fourth quarter, little Patronum spell, and hit him with
the Bermuda Triangle, man.
It's actually like a wand on Amazon that shoots like little flames. Like it'll shoot a flame like 40 yards. It's like $60 on Amazon.
You mean what don't they call those the rocket?
What do you mean? You used to have to run.
Hold on. The fire Roman candles. Isn't that a Roman candle?
Somewhat like that, yes. But it's
Roman candle, yes.
Yeah.
Shoots little fireballs.
You used to have to go to Hogwarts for that. Now you can get it off Amazon.
$60. I mean, that's a steal.
That is a
honest.
steal.
You need to be a magician for $60.
I can shoot fire out of a wand for $60.
Absolutely.
Sign me up.
All right, we got a
Hagrid
question
coming
here
out of the
from
motorcycle.
Bubby. I mean, Matt, you knew this was coming. I mean, with your backdrop, you knew this was coming.
Okay.
All right, he wants to know, what's your go-to bottle of bourbon?
So I got about 250 bottles in my house. So there's
They'd have loved you during the Prohibition.
so there's no such thing as like a go-to. It's like walking into a candy store. Like, do you want chocolate-covered strawberries? Do you want gummy bears? Do you want ice cream? Do you want brownies? Like, what do you feel that day?
Willy Wonka.
I kind of am. I am. Do you want to take a sip out of my chocolate river? That's kind of what it's like.
Scone's got a cool hat and a cane, and he's dancing around the house.
I'll tell you
I
my
don't know if you send out any golden tickets.
right. Well, Cone, you have a golden ticket to come drink at my house anytime you want. You make it down here, you got it.
sir.
All three of you.
you,
But
sir.
I will tell you my favorite new bottle I scored is a bottle of 7-year Willet Rye. Their normal release is 4-year Willet, but the 7-year, I had it again last night, is fantastic.
Matt, question, who do we beat in the World Series and how many games?
I actually picked the Yankees to win the World Series before the season. Not a homer pick, by the way, because I picked, and I'll tell you where I screwed up. I actually picked I picked the Blue Jays to win the division, but the Yankees to win the World Series. So
I got the Blue Jays winning the World Series. They're sneaking into the wild card. There's still a chance.
It wouldn't surprise me. I had the Yankees beating the Braves. So
Please let that happen. Matt, let the Braves Yankees be the World Series match. You're penciled in every day of the week.
You think you've seen Flaming Dragon? Let that
Who knows?
happen.
Y'all might not even be the Braves, but
Remember in that movie, The Breakup, where they put a piece of tape down,
Yeah.
to buy the house? That's what it's going to be here, man.
By that time they won't even be the Braves. They'll be the Atlanta voting IDs.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go to real quick. LSU-Auburn score. You got one yet? One in mind? It's kind of percolating up there.
I think it's going to be a close game. I've seen too many weird games in that stadium to think LSU's just going to go walk. So something in the 20s, something 20, 27, 20-ish type deal. I
score 20? How?
Yeah. I was going to say, who did Auburn kidnap to score 20?
The only way Auburn pours.
Yeah, well, we'll see. The Jaden Daniels-Robbie Ashford matchup's going to be pretty
Probably
interesting.
after the baseball.
Scone, thanks so much, my friend. It's always great having you on the show.
All right, guys.
All right, brother. See ya. All right, one of our favorites.
That guy's
Scone there.
awesome.
All right.
Hey, thank you so much. Have a good day.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, guys. All right, fellas and ladies. And Drew's awake. All right. That is another edition. Morning Scone. Presented by Brock. Badners with the Clinic. Hood Code Roofing. HoodCodeRoofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Hood Code Roofing. I just gave a score, but I don't know that I'm standing by that score. We'll see. Anyway. Sorry I didn't get the comments or anything like that. Shout out to everybody who watched. Hey, all right. If y'all are new, please smash that like button. Subscribe up to the channel. Appreciate y'all. All right, I got to get going because I got to get Drew. All right, y'all have an awesome day. Thanks so much for watching. AFR 3 LSU Daily is already live. Peace.